Hi. Okay, guys. So today we're going to talk about taking the shapes you made and we're going to work on making a base for your sculpture. So the biggest thing about this with your base is that you want it to be able to have um, integrity and hold your weight. Now this uh, foundation that you're creating, you're going to be expanding on the next days of the week. You're going to be adding to it and changing it and elaborating on it. Okay. All right. So you can see down here, I have 4 shapes. This already has been constructed together, so I took it apart to show you how to make it work and come back. Okay. Um, so So the biggest thing is I created these shapes. You see they're kind of the same. I picked a paper that's got a really nice contrast on the back. So I'm thinking about that with the white page and the black font. So there's this wonderful contrast between what I'm working with. So, uh, so as I'm building, I'm going to be paying attention to that. So if you guys are working with found materials, really think about how those go together. The other thing is they're similar. This is the same shape that I traced. So that's an idea. You could make a shape. So we have like a semi-oval that I traced and then cut out. But then the other thing is we go back to the idea of shape, size, variety, and shapes, shape, variety, and size, but also in kind. So I kind of did a variation with this one where I created a concave shape that really creates that force within the shape itself. Okay, so when we're working with our shapes, we really want to think about concave, convex, positive, negative space, and that shape variety. Now with this piece, you could see my base shapes. I can even take this apart. That's holding this together is this piece right here. So this is my base shape. So you can see how this is 2 shapes standing up. I really like using a 2-inch wide shape at least. That way when I cut into it to notch my shapes together, see how that? Then they really fit together and it gives me that extra space to create those cuts. So this is standing up, but clearly it's not very interesting to look at, right? So you can see how I expanded on that. I used a second 2-inch depth rectangle, long rectangle, and I attached it to the back. And when you're attaching it, you can cut these slits and move them around and see where it looks the best. So I can see, well, does it look good there? And I'm moving it. And then when I find the place I want it, I'm going to cut a notch into that shape so that they attach. And it's in that notch, that slot and notch method, that creates that stability. And you can see that has a little bit more stability now. So it creates this movement from the middle outside of that shape. And then I simply created an attachment of those 2 things. Well, when I looked at this shape, I realized, well, that's just not enough variety. It's very low to the ground. There's not a lot of height. There's not a lot of that negative space we've talked about. So what I went ahead and did is I used this shape, which is really, if you have a nice long drawing paper, you can see how nice it is to have a nice long shape with that. A good technique to use is to create that kind of curve in any shapes you want to do. You see that curve in there? So you could take your paper and pull it over a pencil, and you can see you can get this wonderful curve to that shape. So if I wanted to add this shape here, I could, right? And that gives it some nice height. But that does not have as much variety because both sides of these shapes are straight. So what I went ahead and did is I made a curvilinear shape. That means it's curved on one side. And it's straight on the other, but it's a nice curvilinear shape kind of reminiscent of a Matisse. That's what I was thinking, you know, plants and gardens. I've been out in my garden a lot. And I went for that, and I attach it to the bottom and to the top and to the bottom, making some notches. And you could see that this doesn't like to stand up. It kind of flops a little bit. So it takes a little bit of finesse to play with it to get it to want to stand up. So I'm going to move that notch over there. So it is, when you are making your shapes and building your sculpture piece, it is a trial and error. You're going to put it on, it's going to fall over. You're going to put it together, it's going to, so you're going to make something and respond to it. Okay, so let's go back to this idea of making our base for our sculpture, okay? Now, for those of you who do not have drawing paper, that has a little bit more stability to it. As I'm putting these pieces together, you're going to see that this is going to just fall over on me. And so it's kind of there, it's a little flimsy. So I'm going to just kind of keep playing with it to get it to want to have that movement in space. So today, all you're doing is you're going to take your shapes, you're going to create a base, right? So number one, your goal today is it's standing up. Number two, you're having your shape variety. And tomorrow, we're going to expand on this sculpture and make it bigger and get those positive, negative spaces. We're going to look at balance. We're going to look at proportion, okay? And movement. Movement is a really big one. If we look at this piece right now, we're going to see it's very solid. It's very, it doesn't have that movement. I look at it, I understand it, I see it, and it's not very interesting. But it has that structural integrity. So tomorrow we're going to expand on this sculpture and we're going to add and make it more interesting to look at. Okay. All right. So just to review, you are going to be using that slot and notch method today. You're going to be taking paper. If you want, you can use something a little bit more sturdiness. Like I said, that drawing paper works really well. The slot notch method is you're going to cut a slot in each piece. You're going to allow you to put those together like so, and it creates that structural stability to create a three-dimensional form that has space on all four sides. All right, okay, all right, looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing. Remember, every day we're going to do a little chunk on this project. Tomorrow we are going to expand on this. All right, okay, have fun.